Hello, and welcome to the 8th video in the C++ for Beginners series. In this video, we will be going over the switch statement and how it is useful in applications like creating a menu. We will also start work on building our portfolio project. We will be building a basic menu interface that we can use to select properties from in order to run and display them from one interface. This will form the foundation of our project, so that in future videos, certain example programs can easily be added into our project. At first, we'll be using simple programs to demonstrate the basic function of the menu program, but as the course progresses, you can feel free to swap them out with more challenging projects. The main objectives for this lesson will be to begin creating the basic framework for our portfolio project. We will make a simple menu with which we can use to call the example programs we'll be making in our future lessons. There will also be an introduction to switch statements to help build out our menu. And finally, we'll revisit do-while loops and we'll utilize external files for our project. So let's begin. Here, I have displayed a brief outline of the program we will be building. First, we'll need to define and create 4 new functions. Print menu, which will be used to print out to the screen and display the menu to the user so that they can make a selection. Get menu item, which will return an integer. This function will query the user for input and return the menu selection number they choose. Placeholder. Since we will not have many programs for our menu to use at first, this function will act as a placeholder for now and will also allow us to see if our menu is working correctly. Goodbye. This function will perform a bit of a goodbye routine when the user chooses to exit the program, so that the program doesn't just abruptly end when we hit close. Down in main, we will need 2 variables to start with. Int selection, which will initialize to 0. This will hold the menu selection choice returned from the getMenu function above. Second variable, int return or int ret, will hold the return value from our functions. Underneath that, we'll enter a do-while loop. Remember, a do-while loop is very similar as a while loop, except that it allows us to execute at least one iteration through the loop before exiting. Inside the loop, we'll use a switch statement to match what the user selected within a particular program. We'll be going over the switch statements in the next slide. We then rerun the loop and the return value from one of our functions is any other value than 0. Here I have a switch statement flowchart and a switch statement code example. On the left in the flowchart, you can see how it works. So the switch is going to take an input and selection. In our case, it's going to be an integer value from the menu item that the user chooses. Let's just assume that they choose item number 3. So it's going to enter the switch selection on top. Then it's going to drop down to the case 1. So it's 3 equal 1. No. So it's going to drop down to the next one. This 3 equals 2. No. So it's going to drop down to the case 3. This 3 equals 3. Yes. So it's going to move over to the right and it's going to perform the function 3. And once it completes that function, it's going to break, which is just going to break it out of the switch selection routine. Over in the code, you can see the same thing happening. So in our case, we're going to feed an integer variable named x. So again, the user picks 3. Is x equal to 1? No. Is x equal to 2? No. Is x equal to 3 in case 3? Yes. So it's going to run the code if x equals 3. And it's going to break out of the loop. You'll also notice that there's a default statement at the bottom of the switch statement. This is just in case none of the above cases match anything. So say the user enters like case 99 or something like that. You can run some code there to do something. Either you can exit the program, or in our case, we're just going to run some code that's going to let them re-enter the loop. Maybe display a message like invalid entry or something like that. Here I've listed some more information on the switch statement. The switch expression is evaluated just once. So over on the right, the switch x is executed just once, much like an if statement. It's not like a loop that will repeat through, it's just going to go through once. The value of the expression x is compared with each case. This is similar to an if loop. If x equals case, run the code. Upon a match, the block of code in the case is executed. Duplicate case values are not allowed. For instance, we can have multiple 2s or 3s. The default statement at the bottom is optional. The program would just exit the switch after the last case is checked if this is not included. It should be noted, however, that the break statement is optional. If omitted, execution will fall through to the next case until a break is reached or switch is exited. We look at an example to right of case 1 standard cout print 1, case 2 standard cout print 2, case 3 standard cout print 3, and that one has a break statement. Underneath the switch example, I have some various outputs. So output x equals 1. So we feed in the variable x equals 1. How it's going to work is it's going to match case 1, so it's going to print out 1 on the line. It's also going to match 2 since there's no break statement, so it's going to print out 2. And it's going to match 3 as well since, again, there's no break statement in the case 2. So you can see our output's going to print out 1, 2, 3. But case 3, since there is a break statement, it's going to exit out of the switch and return to the next line in the code. Second example, output x equals 2, it's pretty much the same thing, except we're going to enter case equals 2. So that's going to be the first match. It's going to execute that code. It'll execute case 3, then it'll finally break out. If we input 3, it's going to print out 3, but then since there's a break statement in case 3, it'll exit the switch right away. In case 4 and 5 operate much the same way as 3. It's going to match it and just execute that one line of code. And the default line below is just going to print out an error. In this case, if somebody entered the number 6, 7, or 8. As in the last line in the example, output equals 6. We're going to get an error printed out. And finally, nesting of switch statements is allowed, which means you can have switch statements inside of other switch. But this, however, is not recommended as the code gets very messy and it's hard to follow. Okay, I've gone ahead and created a new project, 08 menu project. As you can see, we've got the standard template. I've also put the last slide on the right hand side here, because I want to go over that switch a little bit more before we start our program. I'll have to give it an integer. We'll just assign it 3 for this example. Once again, we have a switch statement here. I set the initial value of x at 3. So how it's going to work, it's going to go down and check each cases. It's going to match on 3. So we should just print out 3. Let's go ahead and run it. And that's indeed what it does. It prints out 3 here. Let's change our variable to 1. So now, as I explained before, it's going to enter the switch. It's going to match in case 1. And it's going to print 1, 2, and 3. And this is, again, what's known as fall through. So unless you have a break statement, it's going to fall through until it finally does reach a break statement or eventually leaves the switch completely. So here, without changing anything, let's just add in the break statement under case 1. And as you can see, since now it matches on 1, it encounters the break statement, so it breaks out of the switch at the end of that. It does not fall through. And then I want to demonstrate the default statement. Again, we put some other value here, so like 6. Since 6 doesn't have a match, it will be handled by the default case. So we go ahead and print that. We get error. And that should handle almost anything. I can just even put 99. And again, we get error. The other thing that I will go over is that the default statement is indeed optional. So I just delete that out of our switch. And let's go ahead and paste the output statement in there just outside of the switch. The switch should run and this should get printed out. And I'll leave 99 in there to demonstrate. As you can see, we did indeed go through the switch, but since 99 was not matched, it just kind of fell through the whole switch or outside the switch. Okay, so that's just another overview of the switch statement. And I'll actually keep this. We'll implement this into our program. I'll just keep this for now and show you how we're going to build that up. Okay, and I just put our outline specification up to the right hand side there. So First thing we'll need to do is shrink that a bit. We'll create our prototype or declarations for our 4 functions that we're going to add. Okay, I've gone ahead and added those. These are just the declarations for the functions that we'll put down below. One other thing I want to do is add the standard library, because we will be using some system functionality in here. Okay, back down in main then, we'll just make our 2 variables, and we'll change this to a selection. And we'll also enclose the switch right away into our do while loop. Okay, I just quickly formatted that. Then we'll do while. And why don't I just shorten this to keep that selection? We'll just do short for selection. Okay, outside of the parentheses. Pretty simple, but it should run as is right now. And it does. Notice we're getting a whole bunch of errors. That's just because we're looping through. So just kill that. Just doing that because of this line here. So we have to feed in. Let's just set this for 0 now. Because the return's actually going to be coming from, these are going to be called functions. And once the function completes, that's going to be returning a value. And that value is going to be checked down here. And by default, it's going to be 0, so it'll kick out of the loop. So instead of initializing the selection right away, we'll do that inside the do while loop. It's not created yet, but it's popping up because we have the declaration up there. Just get rid of the S. It's just get menu item. It's a minor thing, but we're only returning a single item, so the plural might be confusing. And let's fill out our case a little bit more. We'll have a case 0, which will be eventually if the user wants to quit the program completely. In which case we're going to want to run the goodbye function. And let's just add, I was kind of thinking maybe start with 10. And to match the slide, just change the message there. Okay, so now we got our base program in place. Don't do much, but since we're calling a lot of functions, why don't we now start building some of these out? The first one, we're just going to print the menu for the user to display. So we declared them above. I'm going to implement the functions for now underneath the program. So you can just copy that and we'll start working on the actual function. Okay, I went ahead and just typed that off screen, save some time. And basically it's just going to print on the menu. Instruct the user to select from one of the following choices. And down here, this is kind of our menu selections. I thought we could just use that program that we used in the last video to print off the ranges. I don't think it'll run yet. I got to make a couple of changes, but let's just see where we're at here. And we got to, okay, that's semicolon. Make sure these are colons that follow the cases. I should get rid of, yeah, like I expected, since I'm calling a function. We declared it, but we don't have no code yet. So we can just put like a placeholder function for now. So again, I'll just copy the declaration. We'll come down here underneath the print menu, and we'll just implement 4, something, just a value so it don't break up here. Okay. I'll run. And of course, since we haven't defined goodbye yet either, and I did add it, let's just flesh that out quickly as well. Again, we can just put a placeholder for now. We'll fill these functions in as we go on. I just want this to work. Okay, it returns nothing, takes nothing, so that should work fine. Okay, and we actually, our back and running. Kind of functioning at a bare bones level. Let's okay, so how it's going to work then, since the first thing it's calling, it wants to get the selection from the get menu item function, which right now we're just returning 4. But why don't in here, so it's doing something a little bit more useful, we'll call the print menu function. Okay, so that should hopefully print our menu. Let's run it and see. And yes, it does. So right away it displays our menu. We got that's 4 from the return. Don't worry about that for now, but so far it looks pretty good. Let's continue. Let's finish our menu item here, so let's return this a little bit better. Input the item from the user. Okay, let's quickly compile and run it. Let's just choose 5. Okay, seems to be working. We took the user input, but we're not really doing nothing with it. We're just still printing out up here. So let's work on that next. And that's where I was gonna what this one was about. Let's just copy that declaration. Move down here. Under goodbye. Implement that. And so that should be our 4 functions that we declared at the top. Let me just so we got print menu, get menu item, print placeholder, and goodbye. And it don't matter which order, but just to be consistent, I just ordered them that way. Okay, and since it takes a integer, we'll have to actually give it a variable name. Now, we used item before, but remember the scope, the lesson on scope. This item is totally different in this one. But let's just call it X for now, just to avoid confusion, simply because I know we're still learning, but keep in mind the scope, we could use it. Okay, so we're accepting X for input, so let's just do something like works for now. You choose menu item X, in which case X is going to be whatever they fed in from earlier. Okay, so now we can print something besides 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's just add that up to 1. So I'm doing an output statement. We're just going to call the print placeholder function. And we need to feed that the value, so it matches case 1. Let's just feed it in, the same number, 1 to 1, basically. Okay, let's see if we broke anything. Close the previous version. Alright, and right now it's only going to work with 1, so let's just put in 1. And there you go, you chose item 1. So a little bit more descriptive. Again, the initial coding here is just getting the backbone. This will become much more useful as we go on. Okay, so off screen I just went ahead and copy pasted and modified these to match up. So now no matter which one we select, we pick 5, chose menu item 5, 9, chose menu item 9. The one thing I noticed when we ran it, we picked something. Just a couple things. 1, I don't like this. We'll clean that up. But 2, there's really no way to get back in the menu. Say I selected the wrong one. Let's go ahead and fix that now. And that's where this return integer is going to come up, this return variable. So there's 2 ways to do it. Just to show you what I mean. For right now, I'm just going to assign that here. But now that I'm thinking about it, I might just implement that in our print placeholder function. Okay, so we've set the return value 1, just for 1 for now. Let's go ahead and run the program. It's already in there. Run the program. Let's just select 1, so only one's going to work. But see how it brings the menu back? Okay, but instead of implementing this like this way, let's instead, let's assign it. Let's get that value from the placeholder function, because once we get our real functions in here for our programs, the window that we run is actually going to do the return value for us. So let's just mock that up with the placeholder. So let's just go up here. We're going to change this then. So this will actually return an int instead. And same thing down here. We're going to return the integer value. And we'll just, we're just going to return 1 for now. So it's the same thing. Return 1. Every time we call print placeholder, it's going to print something out and it's going to return a value of 1. And since 1 is declared outside, it'll be valid. It's going to match this while loop condition, so do while loop condition. So let's check in if return is not equal to 0. Well, 1's not equal to 0, so it's going to kick us back into that loop. Up till now, everything's return's been 0, so it just ran through once. But now, this is why we need to do while loop, because we got a mechanism now where we can check. Do I want to go back into the menu, or do I want to leave the program entirely? So now if we go ahead and run, you should get the same thing. Let's try 0. Okay. And for 0, so we can actually break out of the loop without having to close. Yeah, let's just do it that way. Let's turn goodbye into a return as well. So let's change that to int. Why not, right? And make them somewhat useful. In this case, instead of returning 1, we're going to want return 0 because goodbye is going to execute goodbye because the user wants out of it. Okay, I just off screen added each one return value. Also, we have to return value on our goodbye now. So now if we run the program, so we hit 1, 2, and again, it actually is changing. It's just how the formatting happens to line up here. So they all just go back to the menu, except now 0, hopefully. There we go, it actually kicks us out of the program. Let me run this again. And when I was going through, like 4, it gets all confusing. Let's clean this up. So what I'm thinking, we'll just clear the screen each time we print this menu. So let's go down, to our print menu here. And we'll do a system call. Not necessarily advocating for the use of system calls. Some people hate it, some people love it. But for these early programs, they work out well. And we've already, early on, included standard libraries. So at this point, if you haven't already, make sure that's included. Okay, so let's see if that works a little better. Okay, got our menu, so let me pick 2. Okay, so it is indeed clearing the screen. If you look very quickly, you can see you chose menu item. But it does us really no good because it happens so fast we can't see. So let's fix that next. Okay, and that's actually implemented in the placeholder function. So again, we can use another system call. Remember this too, we've used this before in the Hello World program. And that takes in milliseconds again, so like a second is 1,000 milliseconds. So it's just, for now, just wait 3 seconds. We can change that, of course. So, but just so something we can kind of see what's going on. All right, let's compile and run. And I got an error. Hold on a second. That's actually included in the Windows H header file. Okay. Now we compile and run it. And we pick an item. You choose menu item 3. Now it's visible. And as you can see, after the 3 seconds expire, so let me do it again. I'm going to pick 8. You chose menu item 8. And one thing I noticed too, when we actually called our function, right now we're just running this placeholder. Like when we run our functions later on in programs, we want to wipe out that menu completely when we call our function. Why don't we add the clear screen here as well? So this will clear the screen, And before it prints it out, let's compile and run, try again. So now we got our menu. And pick, say, 5. You chose menu item 5. Let's get out of that again. Show you again without me selecting it. About 3 seconds here. And bam, back to the main menu. So it's starting to look more like a real program that you'd see in production instead of everything just all clunky. Okay, we haven't really worked on goodbye yet. Let's do that. My vision for goodbye, well, I'll just show you here. So right now when we exit it, we hit 0. Bam, goodbye, little message, and that's it. First, we can just add our system clear screen again. Just borrow that from up here. So it's going to clear screen. It's going to print goodbye at the very top. So let's just add a line in front of it, make it a little bit cleaner. Let's create a for loop. Okay, off screen I just created the rest of that for loop, save a little time, because I know this is going to be probably a marathon video. And so basic for loop, except in this case I'm actually incrementing down or decrementing down, and I just use R. You could use I or whatever, but I usually like for incrementers myself, and R just to show us reverse at a glance. You can use obviously whatever you want, but so we're starting out at 3. We're going through the loop and we're counting down, and here notice too that when R is greater than or equal to 0, we want to perform the loop. And what we're going to do is print out the value of R, which would be like 3 at first, and go through 2, 1, 0, then 3 dots. And also, since we included the Windows header earlier, I might as well take advantage and put a little delay in between this. So let's go ahead and compile and run that and see if this works. Quote there. Must have mistyped before. Okay, so print out R, 3 dots. Let's see. What kinds of errors today? Got a comma here. Okay, good practice though. Let's continue on. Okay, we got our menu. Works as usual. Shows 1, little delay there. Kicks us back to main menu. So let's try our new goodbye now. So 0. Let's hit enter. Look at that. Let's just put another clear screen at the bottom. That way, when it comes back to that within the IDE, it'll look like it's closed completely. So let's run it again. 0. There, see how it cleared the screen again, and so it gives the impression that it's truly closed and no residue code left over from it. One thing though, let's go back in again, run it. So right now we've been entering integers, but how about if our user just, wants to do something stupid? How about let's put some letters in? It just kicks us out right away, and that's maybe not necessarily what we want. And we can do a little input validation. So if we type okay, it's a long one. Basically what it's going to do is just going to not only clear the buffer, but it's going to clear anything, or it's going to ignore any previous input on there. And what this big huge string is just given the max possible size that a string possibly could be. So if somebody was trying to somehow overload your buffer or something. And the other thing we want to do too, we want to return a value. Let's I'm going to just use 99 because I don't want to use my zeros and ones that I've used before. I don't have a specific case 99, but remember when we're going over to switch at the beginning of the video, anything that does not match gets processed by the default. So here we're just going to print out invalid selection, try again, and it should re-enter into the loop. And let's compile and run, and scope resolution operator, CN, can't use it by itself because I don't use the namespace standard. And some more errors. Okay, let's see what's going on with that one. And okay. And we'll have to include limits, I believe. So, okay, that looks better. And the reason of that, since we're using the numeric limits here, it's not to include that in the standard namespace. We need to actually include the header file that includes that. And we'll actually need this later because I want to include one of our first data type program that we had. So we'll probably end up with a dozen or so of these includes by the time this is done. Okay, so got that fixed. Let's compile and run. Now, if somebody just enters, some gibberish, invalid selection, try again. Except, however, it's closing the program by default. And that's because if you look here, default, we're not really returning anything, so we can set return equals 1 because we want to run back through the loop again, just like our other programs. Let's try it once again. Okay, now we just type in some gobbledygook, and there we go. Look at that. Negative, big old number. Exactly how we want. And of course, if we just actually enter a valid one, chose menu item 1. And again, do gobbledygook. And one thing though, if you look, it resets it, but look how quick our message, invalid selection. Not that's a huge deal, but it's nice to put a little delay there too. As long as we got the header included. Let's fully abuse the sleep. Let's just 2 seconds, probably more than enough. Just give the user time to say, hey, what happened? Invalid selection. Try again. File run. Okay, and I type in some characters I shouldn't. Invalid selection. Try again. Okay. And if we really want to take to the next level, we could even do something like start a system clear screen in there too to really point out the error. And type some gibberish. Valid selection, try again. Alright, that's probably enough. Just give you an idea of some of the things we can do. But let's continue on. Okay, I know this video is getting long, but there's one other tweak I think we can do. Okay, like right now we pull up our menu and we choose one of these placeholders. You just chose menu item 3, it counts down 3. We can make that a little bit more interesting here. Here I'll do the code off screen and explain it quickly. Okay, I'm back. So what I basically did, kind of you remember back from I think the second video when we kind of displayed hello world like a typewriter type thing. So I'm just kind of doing the same thing here. You could probably refer to that code if you don't understand, but and we're just inserting again just like we did in improved hello world at character 23, and if you count these out again, you got to count this as actually 1 and count all the letters plus spaces. You end up right here, I believe, 23. So we're going to insert, starting at position 23, a space, plus we're going to convert our integer that we come in, x, is going to be converted to a string. Exactly like, I'm not going to go into details, exactly like the lesson 2. It's going to just print that out. It's going to pause, just like video 2. And down here, once that completes at the end, we'll just have like a little, it's going to drop out dots. You'll see here. Let's just run that. Okay, so right now we got nothing but placeholders. I'm just going to pick 3. You selected 3. Function will be coming soon. A little more razzle dazzle and just you selected 3, So again, this is more for learning than actual functionality, but I think these things help make it a little bit more fun to code. If not, just stick with you selected 3 or whatever you're happy with. So let's move on now. The last thing I want to do is actually try to incorporate our file we used in the last video. Okay, so now we want to add the two files we had in our last video, the data types, I believe, so we can actually display something besides these print placeholders. And to do that, code blocks is kind of weird that way, but let's just open up instead. So select the two data type folders we want, data type CPP, the source file, and data type H, the header file. Okay, and it opens them, but notice over here, nothing's happened. So we need to do a little bit more than that. So what I'm going to do is click on that, File, Save File As, and make sure you go back into our current project, which is 8, the menu project, and save it into this folder here. Then do the same thing, make sure the data type H is selected. Oops. Then File, Save File As. Again, make sure you're in our new menu project folder and save that. Okay, now you notice we're still haven't really included them yet, but what that did then is actually copied them into our actual directory. And how we do that is we right click on the project name here, and we're going to add files, and it opens up again in our, make sure it's in our menu project. And here's the two new ones that we just added or imported into our directory. So select both of them, and we'll open them up. And we're going to get a little dialog. Do you want to add this to your project, basically? So we can just OK. And there we go. Now they're actually included. But now these files are included within our project, just like the last video. Okay, so just like last time, we're just going to include this. And notice this is not in a class. So the header here is just pretty much a declaration. And the header here, or I mean the source file is just pretty much the function definition. But just like in the last video, we are going to have to include the data types H header into our main file. I told you this is going to get, you're going to see an impressive includes here by the time we're done. So all this is system functionality, and now we're starting to get to our user files. Notice, I mentioned this last time, but with the brackets or the quote style. And this just indicates again to the compiler, look in the local source directory. So that's where we're going to get this from. And opening up the data type CPP. So we're actually going to return 1 when this program completes. And that right here is where we're going to be using that. So instead of the placeholder here, we're actually going to return. So we can actually just call this function here instead of the placeholder. It takes no parameters. And the return will automatically get filled in. And one thing we'll have to do, so we got the data types header. We'll have to so you notice we get an error here when I tried to compile it because we didn't include our utility H header. And for this, right now, I just want to be done with this video. Where that's coming from is when we're trying to call right here. So we can just for now go ahead and comment these out. And we can just and replace that just for now. And manually add 5 new lines. Okay, just to get it done. I'm going to get this video over with. And we can just remove that for right now because we're no longer using that function. Alright, a couple build problems, but I think we're good now. So let's see if our number 1 actually works. And voila. Now we're getting our little program, I think originally from lesson 3 that we used last, we also used in the last video. Notice how it nice and clears the screen. Looks real presentable. And we press any key to continue. Since it's returning 1, it keeps us in the main menu instead of closing the program completely. So once you get more programs down the road, you can just go through. I want to look at 1. Okay, I want to look at 2, and so on. Of course, right now we only have the 1, so. But I think that's a long enough video for today. So hopefully you followed along and learned quite a bit and can kind of see where this project is going. So until then, see you in the next video.